Hi, everyone. This is Carrie, and we are back with day 7 of the Jacqueline and Trezell West trial. You probably are familiar with these two. They are on trial for the suspected unaliving of these two sweet darlings right here, Oren and Orson, previously known as Classic and Sincere. Okay, let's get down to the nitty gritty because today was pretty good actually. Okay, so they were having some technical difficulties. They were supposed to restart up the interview with Ryan, Detective Ryan, or Officer Ryan. And because of the technical difficulties, they decided to go ahead with some other witnesses that were needed to take the stand. They started out with Josiah West. He is Trezell's baby brother. He's about 8 years younger than Trezell. And he said that from January 20th, well, he said about the end of 2019 to around January 2020. He lived with Trezell's mom and dad. His mother's name is Wanda. I don't know what the father's name is. So if you hear me say Wanda, I'm speaking of Trezell's mother. He said he visited Trezell's house 1 to 2 times every 5 months, about 4 to 6 times a year, is what they said. He did a lot of babysitting for them. Now, they would bring the kids over there, and then sometimes he would babysit at the home in Bakersfield for them. And then he said he usually only watched the bio kids, the biological children of Jacqueline and Trezell. And they asked him how often Trezell brought the children over to their mom's house to visit, and he said about 10 times a year. Mostly they brought the kids over, dropped them off for all of them to babysit together. So it was Josiah, Wanda, and Trezell's dad who would babysit. He said when they would come over, he would entertain the kids, he'd feed them, all the things that go under the category of babysitting, he pretty much helped do. They would stay about 1 to 2 hours each time. Many times it was due to them taking classes in their um, foster program that they were having to become a part of. He said that he and Trezell don't really hang out much, but they had a normal relationship. And they asked him to describe each of the children one by one. Aiden, who is the oldest, he said he's a normal kid. He was kind of like the leader of the children. The others looked up to him. That was Adrian. Then Aiden is the next in line. He's young and energetic, outspoken, very loving and considerate. And then there's Devin, which I might be wrong. Devin might be the second oldest. Devin and Damien were another sibling set that they were at the time fostering. And Josiah said that Devin was strong. He makes sure everyone was getting along, kind of follows the lead of Adrian and helping keep the kids in line. And then his younger brother Damien looked up to Devin. He had a strong respect for both Adrian and Aiden. He was very quiet and he kept to himself a lot. Oren was young, always with Orson. He didn't speak much. Orson was young and very much like his brother. It says outspoken when he did speak. So I guess he said for the most part he was didn't speak a lot, but when he did, he was loud. And he was always around and interacting with the other brothers. Josiah said he went to theme parks with the family on vacations and whatnot, and his mother advised him that they were moving to Cal City. Trezell didn't tell him directly. He wasn't aware when they moved, and Wanda actually did help watch the kids while they moved. He wasn't there. She was at the Cal City or the Bakersfield home for one day while they were moving, watching the children. He understood she was watching all the kids. He did not help Trezell with his move. He never visited Cal City home. So that was key. He was never in that home. Around the weekend of December 19th, the law enforcement CPS came out to Wanda's home. It was about a 2-hour visit. They were advised there was a situation and kids were being removed, but Wanda could go get the kids eventually. CPS had them temporarily, and they did have access to visitation to the boys eventually. He said they would. They told him they would have eventually have access to go visit the boys. The first week in December, Trezell and Jacqueline came to Wanda's house with the kids, and they left the 4 older kids to be babysat. They were not there long, about 2 hours. Trezell did not tell them where they were going. He did not see Orrin or Orson that day, or did he see them on December 19th, or at any point in December, or after they moved to Cal City. He babysat at Wanda's the 4 other kids 2 times after they moved to Cal City. So when he did see them, he saw them at their mother's house, not at the new Cal City home. So then Hennessy, who is the defense attorney for Trezell, got up and he was just kind of asking him, how old are you now? He's 27. How old were you back in 2019? He was 24. He had previously said that he and Trezell had a lackluster relationship in a previous interview, and he asked him to expand on that. He said that Trezell had issues with him still living with Wanda and Dad. In 2019, he only babysat the 2 older kids. After the adoption, he didn't babysit much because of his schedule with the school. So he was still going to school while he was living there. He confirmed he wasn't clear on the kids' ages and dates of the adoption. He confirmed he saw videos of Wanda's phone, but not sure if they were from Bakersfield or California City home. He saw pictures of all 4 of the kids. Then Torres Stalling, who is the defense attorney for Jacqueline, gets up and she said, would you say that you had a good opportunity to get to know the kids? And he said, yes. And she asked if he was aware of any physical disabilities with Devin or Damien. Were they slow? And he didn't like that she said that. He was kind of like, well, he goes, I don't know if I'd word it that way. He said he wasn't a doctor, but they weren't as fast to pick up on things as Aiden and Adrian were. Damon had a difficulty communicating, and over time, Wanda had a blossoming relationship with him. So I guess he kind of came out of his shell only with Wanda, Trezell's mother. He would pick up things that do not belong to him, and he would get really angry when they tried to explain why he can't have them and when they were trying to correct him. Then she asked him, does Orrin have a disability? And Josiah said, yeah, he made a lot of noises. He stuttered a lot and mumbled. And again, he didn't want to say he was a disabled child. He was kind of like, well, I'm not a doctor and I don't want to say the wrong thing here, but you could tell that Josiah really cares about these children a lot. You could just, he's probably the sweetheart that Trezell's not, honestly. He said that Orrin would flat out cry. He couldn't tell you clearly what he wanted. So he would either get frustrated and make noises or just flat out cry. Not sure if it was because of his age is why he did that. Orson was almost like a twin to Orrin. He said they were so similar. They were always together. And she asked, did he know of any emotional attachments that they had to Trezell and Jacqueline? And he said no. They were both heavy criers, though. I guess on December 22nd, the CPS visit, or before then, she kind of made clarification. She's like, so you were home when the kids were interviewed, right? And he said that it was him, Wanda, the father, and then the other 4 children. He said he briefly spoke to the officers, and the cop had told them, or he said to him about Trezell and Jacqueline's home. He said there was a military style to the way the kids were being raised over there, and they were malnourished, and Trezell was a murderer. He had said that in a previous statement, I believe, is where they're getting this. So then after the kids' interview, he did not hear the interview. He said the adults were put in another room and they would take each child in to interview them. And they had to wake them up to be interviewed. And she made a big deal about, well, did you at least feed them before they got interviewed? And he's like, no, they didn't get fed until afterwards. And then almost immediately after they had left, the officers had left, CPS arrived. and they were explaining, they took the kids and they were explaining that, we're going to have them for a while temporarily while all this is going on. And you'll have an opportunity to come visit the children. So she asked him, she said, "Did you ever get the kids back?" And he said, "No." He said they applied, they went through all kinds of foster care programs to get verified, but when they attempted to get them back, they were denied. Most of the time when they dropped the kids off, the car would be ring. That was another thing he said, just I don't know why she brought this up, but she said it's like they weren't visiting a lot. They dropped the kids off and then the car would still be running and it was like, "Here's the kids, bye," type thing. These people are not very social. It's kind of rude. All right, so then they brought up Sergeant Daniel McClive, and he's with the Baker Police Department. He's got 17 years of experience there, and he right now he oversees the body worn camera division, but he was a digital unit investigator back in 2020. And this was kind of a boring testimony, to be honest, because he went through all of these hours of training that he had and the different types of training that he had to go through to get all this digital certification and everything. And he basically listed off all the electronic devices that he had taken from the West home, which included cell phones, laptops, and then there was also some DVRs there, and I believe there were some DVRs from the neighbors' homes as well. So he just kind of talked about how he had kind of the chain of command of how things came in from the FBI. He would work them and then give them back to Officer Hernandez, or I'm sorry, Detective Hernandez. So he would turn everything over to Detective Hernandez. Then they had Charles Pettis come up, and he is the the biological father of Classic. He said Ryan Dean was the mother of his children. I think he considered both of them as children. To get it, he had to go take a paternity test to get DNA so that they could help with the search of finding the children. And he was kind of like, yeah, just it. He kind of was one of those ones where he got up on the stand and kind of talked a little bit too much about himself and how he was feeling about the whole situation. They asked him questions about, when did you find out they were missing, that kind of thing. But I found it interesting that when the time came, both defense attorneys declined to ask him any questions. Then they go to lunch and they brought up the CPS worker, which I'm going to go into differently here in a minute. Now they're into the Ryan interrogation and they're basically informing Jacqueline that her children are being taken away. And she's wanting to know what the kids said. And he's like, "I'm not telling you." So they're really coming down hard on her, but she doesn't seem to be breaking. She's just denying, denying, denying. Ah, see, the judge even said it today, 2 hours ago. There must be somebody else trying to stream or restream this broadcast of this audio for this trial because the judge made another note this afternoon saying that it is illegal to rebroadcast the court's live stream of the proceedings. So the CPS lady, it was Ishel Hill. She's an employee of Child Protective Services in Kern County. She supervises social workers who are focused on abused and neglected children. She was a social worker before her current supervisor status. She testified she worked in emergency response and investigated allegations of abuse or neglect. Members of the public, teachers, law enforcement will call in to report allegations, she said. Hill said she worked 4 years as an on-call social worker. She had to answer when the office was closed. She doesn't believe calls that come in are recorded. Info is entered into their child welfare system, and it generates a document for a referral. It lists previous investigations of the family and the current allegations. On December 21st, 2020, Hill was contacted by California City Dispatch. The first phone call lasted about 5 minutes. She was told some names and was asked to verify if the adults were the adopted parents or not. Hill requested help from a backup social worker. Hill said she was not as proficient at looking up adopted children, so it takes a lot more digging, she said. She received multiple other calls from the Cal City that night, and she said that she was in her car when she received the initial calls. She wrote info on a yellow legal pad after pulling over. Hill said she wrote a report And she identified the referral page, and then Torres Styling requested a brief sidebar. So Hill started explaining the referral. It gives the date and time of the incident, a summary of the allegations, and this allegation was classified by Hill on December 21st, 2020 as a general neglect. The referral names the family's members and gives their ages. One line says there is video footage of Orrin and Orson walking down the street. Hill said she believes she got that info from law enforcement. Now, see, they brought this up, but this is the second time in this trial they've mentioned that, but then there's been no video shown. So I would think if there was one, they would have already shown it. I don't know. Help me out in the chat if you know more than I do about this. For context, Hill said she believes law enforcement was trying to get video, not that there was actually video of the boys walking down the street. Okay, so maybe that's where the misinformation came in. That makes sense. This referral went to a different social worker. She had no involvement in the case other than taking the initial calls. Torres Stallings got up, and Hill had testified 3 times on this case and asked the first time she was contacted by law enforcement about it. Hill said she doesn't recall. Torres Styling gave her report to review. According to the report, the first time Hill was contacted by law enforcement was 3 days before she was due to testify the first time. Hill said there was a meeting with county council and other county employees before she testified the first time. A number of people were present. Hill said she was directed on how to prepare herself. And Torres Styling says, well, did you talk about what it was you could or couldn't say in your testimony? And Hill said she was not told to say certain things or to change things during her testimony. And she received the info from the referral from dispatch and law enforcement. So the CPS history entails any time that they get a phone call about the family. So they were asked what all goes on this page. That info would have been included in the 5-page report. Torres Stallings was asking about when info held at CPS becomes permanent, if there's an ability to change details. And then I don't think that was answered. She says, looking through another document, Hill said she was first contacted by someone from Cal City PD at 7 p.m. on December 21st, 2020. This is from a call log. She notated the amount of time each call took. And then Torres Styling asked her if she kept her notes from that night. And of course, she said, no, they shred them. There is no requirement to keep them or provide them to a supervisor. She believes she kept them about 6 months on file. Then Torres Styling asked her about the calls from each officer and how long they lasted. The referral form didn't include any allegations of abuse or neglect for the other 4 children, only general neglect for Orrin and Orson since they had gone missing. Torres Stallings was honing in on the line saying the boys were seen on video walking down the street. She asked Hill if it's true she never said the first time she testified that it was her belief officers were looking for that video, not that there was a video. Interesting. Very interesting. All right, so let's talk about this video they played of the interrogation with Jacqueline West and what's his name? His last name's Ryan. I don't know if he's a sergeant or a detective. I'm not sure. Jacqueline enters the room and takes a seat. An FBI agent has taken a seat, and the interview is again being held at Cal City Police Department. John Ryan has entered the room twice and left. No questions have been asked. They're playing that whole making her wait thing. Ryan and another officer enter, and the interview begins. He asks what she's thinking now that they have talked to her husband. Ryan tells her that her other children are in protective custody and she's not going to see them tonight. I thought I heard him say, you're not ever going to see them again. I don't know. They need to make sure they're safe. Jacqueline says, they are safe because we're going through it. The stuff that they told us, they're not going to lie that much about that many things, Ryan says. And he's speaking of the 4 children who have all said that they have not seen the other children. Well, they have not seen Orrin and Orson for months. And they were never in the Cal City home, according to the other children. As with the first interview, Ryan keeps telling her to tell him the truth. Ryan tells Jacqueline her mother also says she hasn't seen Orrin or Orson in a long time. Ryan says there are so many things that are not adding up. And Jacqueline's telling him where the family went Saturday to get gas, pick up food, etc. Ryan tells her that they're going to check all the surveillance cameras from the locations that she says they went and see if they were actually there. Ryan again tells her all four of the other children are telling authorities the exact same thing. He asks if she really believes all four children are going to make up a story and agree to tell it. Great point. Whew. And I think they're going at her really hard too in this audio. They're being tough on her. The audio in the second clip is much softer. Okay. Much of what is being said is difficult to hear. That's where I was getting frustrated. Ryan asked, when's the last time she saw Orrin and Orson? Yesterday, she responds. She says she physically saw them. Ryan tells her there are two babies missing in the cold desert. He says she's not being honest. He says her other kids won't be with her this Christmas because she's not being honest about what happened. He tells her she knows the boys didn't go missing yesterday. They've been missing. He says somebody did something to the kids. They didn't walk away on their own. Ryan tells her that she had a conversation with Trezell about how the other kids couldn't handle Orrin and Orson, and the only way to make the family perfect again was to get rid of them. Jacqueline Wetz keeps saying she's telling the truth. And Ryan tells her that her and her husband's stories don't match. And he says her other children, smart kids, told them another story. Oh, so Ryan tells her, people make mistakes, horrible mistakes, but you can't hide it forever, Jacqueline. Jacqueline says the police are acting so mean because we're going through it. You're a mom. You're supposed to love your children. You're supposed to do everything in your power to protect them, he says to her. And he keeps telling her the other children are saying that she and Trezell kept telling Orrin and Orson would be coming back soon. Kept telling them. They haven't seen them in a while. They're saying that because it's the truth, Ryan tells her. No one has seen Orrin or Orson, not her other kids or other family members. Jacqueline says her mom saw the boys during a video chat a week ago. Her sister has seen them too. No one has seen these babies since November, he says to her. Jacqueline says she's frustrated. She says police aren't really listening. Ryan says they are listening, but what she's saying isn't backed up by the evidence. Jacqueline says she doesn't have photos of the boys on her phone. She says she just got it a month ago. And then Ryan says Trezell West told them he did not shut the side gate. She did. Jacqueline West has said he did shut it. Ryan says she's a terrible liar. He keeps reiterating two little innocent children are missing and no longer here. And you're okay with that? Jacqueline says she's not okay with it. Because of what she's done, Ryan says he'll do everything in his power to make sure she doesn't see her other children. He says he and other investigators know something happened to Orrin and Orson that she's not telling them. I'm telling you, I don't know, Jacqueline says when she asks where the boys are. Ryan repeatedly tells her she's hiding something, and she says she has nothing to hide. Ryan leaves the interview room. Jacqueline continues to speak with the FBI agent and another officer present. She says she doesn't even know where to begin to tell them where to look for the boys. Court is in recess for the day, and that's it until 9 a.m. tomorrow. So I don't know if they're finished with this video or not, because I'm going to be honest with you guys. When I first got back on to listen to them with this interview, it was so low and it kept going in and out that I got frustrated. So what you all just heard there was somebody else's notes, not mine. I'm not going to lie. It came off Twitter. Can't lie about it. So that's where we are. That is where we are. Tomorrow is a new day. We'll see what happens with the West trial. And I want to thank you guys for listening and stay tuned for tomorrow's updates. You guys have a blessed evening. Be safe.